Over its nearly 60-year-long history, Doctor Who has had a few spin-offs to its name, namely K9 and Company, The Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, and Class. But right now, there are no spin-offs currently running, and I think that's a real shame. So here is why Doctor Who needs more spin-offs. So the first reason, and the one mainly based in facts and figures, is the subject of audience retention. So at the moment, Doctor Who appears on your TV for 10 weeks, plus 1 week when there's a special on a year, and then sort of disappears. At the moment, the gap between series seems to be sort of 18 months, which is a long time to say the least, which means there is a long period where there is nothing Doctor Who on the telly at all. Of course, a wait between series for a TV programme is nothing unusual, but back in the Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat era, there was a series on basically once every 12 months, and the series were longer, and you even had some spin-offs in the meantime to fill the void between the series, whereas the Chibnall era, less episodes and a longer wait. And it's those two factors, the shorter series and the longer wait, which makes it kind of hard to get audiences invested in watching Doctor Who again. It's really hard if you have a series on for 10 weeks and then it's off air for a year and a half. Lots of audiences are just kind of going to forget that it's back on, unless the BBC seem to market it lots, which unfortunately at the moment they don't. It's a lot harder to get audiences engaged in Doctor Who. But a spin-off would be a great way to fill that gap. Obviously you have the main Doctor Who series, but then to keep Doctor Who in the public consciousness whilst it's not on air for those 18 months, you have a spin-off to fill the void. So say you had Doctor Who on for 10 weeks and then say a 4-month wait or something, and then there is this new spin-off on, and the audience are actively made aware that this takes place in the Doctor Who universe, and they're getting to know the Doctor Who universe more. One, it will keep them more engaged. Two, it will keep Doctor Who in the public consciousness more, and if you're expanding the universe, then that just ticks the inquisitive boxes in our brain and makes us want to learn more, which means that when the main Doctor Who series is back on, the audience are more likely to tune in and watch it again, because they've learnt this part about the Doctor Who universe, and they want to learn more. I think part of the reason that the combination of Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures work so well together is because Torchwood was aimed for a very adult audience, whereas the Sarah Jane Adventures was aimed more towards children, which meant that though you got Doctor Who out to those two different groups whilst it wasn't on the air, so everyone was actively being made aware of it. Having a new spin-off, maybe one that's marketed towards families like Doctor Who is, or another combination of an adult and more children's-based one, would be a great way to retain the audience for the next series, and a great way to remind people that Doctor Who exists and get it back into the public consciousness. Obviously, the second point I have to make is we live in the age of cinematic universes at the moment. You have, obviously the biggest one, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a series of films all taking place in the same universe. They're all interconnected in some way, and then you have the big event where they all come together. Obviously that's based in films, but Marvel has recently been branching out to television as well. And Doctor Who could very much and should be doing the same thing, having lots of these different shows, they're all in the same universe, and then having some sort of big event where they're brought together. There is no coincidence that The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, the story which brought together all of the Doctor Who TV shows, brought together the characters from Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures and Doctor Who into one story, basically being its own Infinity War and Endgame. That story did so well. It's not a coincidence that that story is one of the most fondly remembered by the public, and the viewing figures for that story reflected that as well. People like these interconnected shows and films that come together to make a satisfying conclusion. A great way to make your finale feel resonant would be to have all these characters coming together, because it feels different, it feels like a big event, and the finale should feel like a big event. So having a spin-off that crosses over with the main Doctor Who show in the finale would be a great way to make this finale feel different and big, and also lend itself to the age of the cinematic universe. And as well as this, you don't have to just restrict this to television. There was talk of John Barrowman saying he wanted to do a Torchwood film. And you could, if Marvel can go from films to TV series, then Doctor Who, why there's no reason why that can't go from TV series to films. You could have the main Doctor Who series running, and then have these big budget films which spin off elements from the main Doctor Who series. And the final reason to have another spin-off obviously would be make it for the fans. Obviously, like I mentioned at the start, Doctor Who has a shorter episode count now and has a longer wait between series, and there's just this sort of strange 18-month void of nothing really happening. But I think it would be a great way to just show that the Doctor Who cares about its fans and to reward the fans' loyalty with just some more content in this downtime, and a spin-off would be an absolutely great way of doing this. And also, the Chibnall era is a lot more secretive than both the Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat eras before it. And I feel like there was just sort of a lack of announcements and news from it, which is of course because they want to keep stuff for the series secret, and I don't have a problem with them doing that. But I feel like a spin-off would be a great way to just have some official stuff from the BBC in the downtime of Doctor Who, because at the moment, like I said, the 18-month void, we get maybe 1 or 2 announcements which are many, many months apart, but I feel like a spin-off would be a great way of just keeping all the Doctor Who fans engaged and sort of being a placeholder of the BBC giving us news. They just give us a spin-off instead. But I want to hear what you think. Do you think Doctor Who should have more spin-offs? Whatever you think, remember to like and subscribe. But I've been Cyberman Alf, and from me for now, it's goodbye.